Hi, this is PR Sundar. Welcome to the special episode. We are going to talk about a possible market crash in the near future. The first thing is that in 1 year time frame, so now it's almost the end of August. So end of August last year to the end of August this year, the Nifty is actually down by 2 to 3%. And whereas if you look at any major market in the world, you talk about US, Japan, Singapore, Germany, France, London, you talk about any market, every market is up. And then most of the markets are trading near all-time high. So in fact, I think yesterday also, the US market hit a fresh intraday high. And then because of some profit booking, it closed slightly lower. So in the last 1 year, the worst performing market in the entire world is Indian market. If somebody had invested in gold 1 year before, and then if somebody invested in Nifty 50 stocks 1 year before, you can just compare the huge underperformance. And this is only for Indian people, or the people who are living in India. But foreign institutional investors' position is even more pathetic. And if I'm not wrong, about 1 year before, the Indian rupee was trading around 81, 82 rupees. I think yesterday it hit an all-time low. I think now it is trading above 88. So that's about 7-8% depreciation in Indian rupee in the last 1 year. If somebody has brought in dollars, invested in India 1 year before, and now is sitting with 3-4% loss and plus 7-8% loss because of the currency depreciation. So they're taking the total loss to more than 10%. So this is one of the rare occasions where see, Lehman Brothers collapsed, Nifty fell 50%. Nobody complained because every country market fell and we also fell because the news is like that. Coronavirus, Nifty fell 40%. Nobody complained because the entire global markets fell. But now the point here is that the entire global markets are rallying. And look at the S&P 500, Nasdaq 100, or Dow Jones, or look at the Chinese markets, Japanese markets. And, but we are just keep falling. So therefore, this fall is not because of the global cues, it's mainly because of the local cues. So I always say, whenever there is some bad news, there is something good in the bad and there is something bad in the good. Russia and Ukraine war started, so it's really very bad, but there is something good in that we could buy the crude oil at a lower price, at a discounted price from Russia for the last 3 years. But that benefit was not passed on to the consumers. So instead, who benefited? Some oil marketing companies. We can say, because oil marketing companies are mainly owned by the government. So we can say it's the government. And some few industrialists, you can't blame them also. So, the government has taken some money from them also in the name of windfall tax. Right? So, major beneficiary was only the government. It's not the Indian consumers. Right? Now, the Trump came to power, the most irrational person in the world, and he has become the president of India. President of US, right? But he himself thinking that as a president of India, that's a different story. But this is a slip of a tongue. He left right and center. So he put the taxes, tariff against many countries. And then, now he's still negotiating. But the most tough negotiation is between US and India. Although China is also a very difficult country to negotiate, but things are going on the right direction. So although deadline has crossed, US has given another 3 months extension for China. for the negotiation. China is also buying crude oil from Russia. So America do not find any fault with them. America finds fault only with India buying Russian crude. And now US sticks to 50% tariff against India. So when 2-3 weeks before when this news came, so we all thought, there are two possible solutions. One, Russia Ukraine ceasefire may come, and because Trump and Putin met in Alaska. So if some negotiation happens, some ceasefire happens, then this 25% extra tariff will become irrelevant. But that does not happen. The second possibility is that before the deadline, 27th August, so most market participants felt that India will negotiate with US, and then some kind of an agreement will be reached. So this irrational 50% tax will not come into force from August 27. But that also has not happened. Just 2 days before 27th, the Trump government has actually notified the 50% tariff. So that day, the markets fell drastically. And the following day, there was another news that said, that Trump made phone calls to Prime Minister India 4 times, and the Prime Minister seems that he did not pick up the call. So there was some news like this in some Germany newspapers, and then that has been circulating around all the social media. So when this news came, market became panic, and markets fell once again for the next day. So almost 2% fall in 2 trading sessions. And then yesterday also the markets fell. That's a different story because of the Reliance AGM and this and that. Now, after the market close yesterday, the India's GDP data came. That was much, much better than expectation, right? And, what to say? Sometimes, if they're too good data, the first question comes, how much we can trust this data, right? So why? You look at the inflation data given by government. So the inflation data is so low, it's almost 1.5%. Okay. Then this data, or that's GDP data, it has come at 7.8%. Right? So if the GDP data is 7.8% and the inflation is only 1.5%, somewhere the numbers are not matching up. Right? So if that is the case, the country should prosper very well. Say, for example, if the economy is growing by 8%, that means your average income should go up by 8%, but average prices should rise only 1.5% because the inflation is 1.5%. So net, you gain about 6.5%. But that is actually not the case on the ground level. So how this GDP data is calculated, and how this inflation data is calculated. So they are all subject to a lot of discussions, right? One important news that came yesterday, that one appeals court in US said that most of the Trump's tariff are illegal, not legal. And of course, immediately the Trump has responded, he will appeal in the Supreme Court. So because the Supreme Court judgment is a final judgment, so any other court give the judgment, people always have the option to appeal to the Supreme Court. So in fact, this appeals court, although they gave the judgment that most of the Trump's tariff are not legal, but they said that this decision will be withheld until October 14, so that before October 14, the Trump has the choice to go to Supreme Court and get the verdict changed. Right? So is this a good news or not? We do not know. So tomorrow or Monday morning, when the Asian markets open, then only we will come to know how these Asian markets are going to react, how Indian markets are going to react for this news. So if at all this tariff is considered as illegal, the most beneficiary country is India, because India is a country having so much of a trouble with US. But earlier also, there was some news like this, but that time some economic experts in US, what they said, even if the Supreme Court rules against Trump, there are alternate ways where Trump can continue to charge this tariff. It may not be in the name of tariff, it may be in the name of something else, but this is what the economists in US are saying. So therefore, this Trump trouble is going to continue. Trump, tariff, trouble, everything is T. So this trouble is going to continue for some more time. And on the Indian side, there are people who say, oh no, we must be patriotic. No, why should we should stop the business with America? That's fine. All that you should have done it all these years, right? And all these years, you are depending only on one country. 70% of our export is to US. And then now suddenly, there's a problem, you want to find alternate places to do the business. But why you did not find the alternate places for doing business so far, so many years, right? And then moreover, and like the US is such a powerful country, they can even influence other people also, right? So therefore, the only best possible solution is to find, compromise and, negotiate with US and finding a solution with the US rather than going against the US. So going against the US, and in many Tamil channels, I've given the interview, right? This Trump is a totally irrational, totally crazy guy, and he can do anything, right? And he can simply say all the foreign portfolio investors or FIIs who are investing in Indian market, he may propose a higher taxation. So that possibility is there. If that happens, so these FIIs will flee the country. And when the Trump news came that 50% tariff increase against India, even that day also, FIIs did not sell much. But look at Friday data. They've sold for more than 8,000 crore. They can sell just for one day, they can sell for 8,000 crore. And how much more they are going to sell? So FIIs are very, very clearly on a selling spree. And of course, not all the FII selling is instigated by Trump. And they also take their own decision. And look at, our country. Look at the stock market especially. During the BJP government, how many times STT was increased? If I'm not wrong, for options traders, STT has been increased by 5 times. There was no capital gain tax. Long-term capital gain tax was 0. That was increased to 10. Now it is increased to 12.5. Short-term capital gain tax earlier was 10%. That was increased to 15%. Then again increased to 20%. Earlier, as an investor, if you receive a dividend from a company, you don't pay tax on the dividend. But now you have to pay tax on the dividend. Of course, people can argue. Earlier, the company paid the dividend distribution tax, so you did not pay. But now the company do not pay, so you have to pay. But again, companies were paying a standard 20% tax on dividend distribution. But whereas now ultra HNI clients and receiving a lot of dividend, they will end up paying 42% tax. Just to give an example, look at Sun TV. So it's a multi-billion dollar company. 75% of the shares are being held by the promoters. So if they declare the dividend, how much dividend the promoter will receive? You think the promoter will receive 5 lakh, 10 lakh rupees? The dividend will be in hundreds of crores. The moment your income is more than 5 CR, you will end up paying 42% tax. Earlier, the companies were paying 20% dividend distribution tax. Now, you have to pay 42% tax, ultra HNI clients. Or even if you are a normal client, you will end up paying about 30% plus cess. You'll end up paying 35% tax. So earlier there was some indexation benefit given for the real estate and debt mutual funds. That was taken out. So indexation benefit for debt mutual funds taken out, and a dividend has been taxed. The long-term capital gain tax increased 2 times. Short-term capital gain tax increased 2 times. A security transaction tax for options trading increased by 5 times. So like this, if left, right, and center, you keep on increasing the tax. Right? So what kind of a reform is this? Right? A reform means keep on increasing the tax. Right? So earlier I came out with a video by saying that if the Trump tariff, okay, it will be going against America only, because you increase 25% tax for all the countries, right? Who is going to pay that 25%? It is going, American consumers are going to pay. So I said, it's going to be American consumers who are going to be affected. They are going to pay the tax. So therefore I said what Trump did was wrong. But now some people argue with me, sir, few months before you said, who is going to pay that tariff? It is American consumers. Now you are saying India will be affected. How India will be affected? All right? You think a little bit. If you think a little bit, you will get the answer yourself. Okay, I'll give you an analogy. So we are making, let us say, mobile phone. Okay, so that mobile phone we are selling for 10,000 rupees in America. Another country, China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, they also make mobile phone. They are also going and selling for 10,000 rupees in US. Now the Trump says 25% tariff for all. Then what will happen? We also have to sell, we have to increase the price by 25%. So we have to sell at 12,500. China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, also they have to increase the price to 12,500. So then, American consumers have to pay 2,500 more. But now the point here is that Vietnam has 20% tariff, China has 10% tariff, Bangladesh have a 15% tariff, India will have a 50% tariff, which means that the same mobile phone and China, Bangladesh, and Vietnam will be selling at 12,000 rupees. We will have to sell the same mobile phone at 15,000 rupees. So that 2,000 extra, 5,000 extra, American consumers are only going to pay. That's no doubt about it. But my question is, why should somebody buy a mobile phone, Indian-made mobile phone for 15,000 rupees, while the same mobile phone is available at 12,000 rupees? So if the tariff is uniform for all the countries, okay, in my earlier video, I assume that the tariff will be uniform for all the countries. So then only I said it will be the American consumers who are going to pay. But now this differential tariff, a much higher tariff for India compared to other countries. All right? This tariff also US is going to pay, but they will not be willing to pay. Why should they pay 15,000 rupees for our mobile phone when the mobile phones made in China or Vietnam or Bangladesh is available about 12,000 rupees? You can't do the business. Already there are some reports. Yesterday there was a report in news channels in Tamil Nadu, some 600 containers of fish material, prawn, fish like that, was exported to US. And because of this tariff, so the price has become beyond the reach of American people. Same prawns or same fish they can buy from other countries will be cheaper. So they refuse to take the delivery. Now, after traveling half the way to US, now the ships are returning. And like some of my friends, they do export to other countries. So what they told me, sir, we export vegetables and vegetable prices are cheap, but the transportation cost is so high. So assume that 1 kg of tomato you are selling for 50 rupees, the transportation cost will be 100 rupees. So the total landing cost will be 150 rupees in Singapore or any other country, and then there may be selling for 175 or 200, they make money. But for one or the other reason, if the container is rejected at Singapore port, they do that. In Singapore port, they check all the containers for quality. If they find that this quality is not correct, they will just reject it. They will not allow the landing. So then what will happen? Your tomato price is 50. Your transport cost is already 100. So you already spent 150. If the consignment is rejected at the other end, what will you do? Will you ask the shipping container to bring back the tomato? Then you have to pay additional 100 rupees for transportation. So then total your cost will be 250 rupees, right? So what some of my friends told me, so they tell the shipping industry, no need to bring it back, just open the container and then throw it in the sea. So, these are all very, very tragic things. Just imagine fish or prawns or some vegetables going from India to US. Definitely the transportation cost is much higher than the product cost. And then, suddenly if US says, 50% tariff, you get out, then, you can't even bring it back. So everything has to be thrown into the sea. Then how much is the loss for the companies that are exporting? And they buy the tomato for 40 rupees and then they transport it so that, they can get 50 rupees. But now they cannot bring it back. They cannot return it to the farmers also. So this is really going to be very, very difficult. The timely solution, they say delayed justice is a denied justice. So the same way, so these negotiations and all this should have been expedited. Some solution should have been found before August 25, but that was not the case. Now the tariff is here. So from Indian side also, there is no news of negotiation. So instead, our Prime Minister is going to China and Japan, you think that, when it comes to foreign relation, everybody is a businessman. So everybody will be looking for their business interests. So you just remember last few years, how was your relationship with China? Right? So you ban all the apps from China. There's a TikTok and many other apps from China that has been banned. There was one company that got into big trouble because, that company got investment from China. And then all the Chinese nationals were not given a visa to enter into India. They hell lot of problem. But today suddenly, that Trump has turned against you. And because of that, now you want to revive the relationship. You think that tomorrow onwards they are going to be your best friends and they're going to do a lot of business with you. This all will take months and years. So that's why I always say, when you are in a good position, you should take risk of diversifying to other markets, not when you are in trouble. So anyway, all these are going to be very big, very complicated. And, for the past many months, I've been saying that, even for the long term, for the next 3 to 4 years, okay, I'm not bullish about Indian stock market. But it does not mean that I'm saying that markets will crash. In my opinion, from the last year, September high, and for another 5 years, okay, the Nifty may not give a return equivalent to bank FD return. So when you put your money in bank FD, you get 8% interest. That's a risk-free interest. I don't think that market is going to give 8. See, in the last 1 year, it has already given minus 4% or minus 3% return. Last 1 year, you are sitting with minus 3%. Right? So next year, you have to gain 19%. So then only this minus 3% will become 0. Okay? Then last 1 year, 8% interest. Next 1 year, 8% interest. So 16%. Just to catch up with the bank FD return, so Nifty has to shoot up 19% from today until the next year, same date. That's roughly about 20%. So do you think, if this kind of problems continue, like we are against number one country, I'm not saying that what US is doing right, what India is doing wrong. I'm not saying that. Right? So at the end of the day, you have to survive economically. So what are the things you have to do? So that you have to do, right? So you can't go deadly against America, right? And there many people say, we are poor country, that's why US do. But there are so many other countries who are much poorer than our country. Do you think Trump and going and disturbing all those countries, right? So you want to find fault with others. For your failure, you want to blame others. It's very, very easy. But the question is, what is it you are going to do to improve the economy, right? And then this one I'm talking, 19% market has to shoot up. That's only for Indian people. For FII's currency depreciation is a very, very big concern. And so far, RBI has not done anything, to make sure that our currency do not depreciate, right? So, like one of my BJP friend, I used to make fun of him. One day I told him, your leader, what he said in 2014, if we come to power, Americans will be lining up to get Indian visa. So I said, that is 100% true. Now all the American FIAs are lining up to get the Indian visa so that they can come to India and they can sell all the shares and they can go back to US, right? Even 2 years before, there was a deputy governor of RBI. He came out with a white paper saying that this FIA selling can be a real potential black swan event. And that time FIAs were net sellers only for 2 lakh crore. Now go and check last year and this year alone, since 2024 January till now, FIAs have already sold 5 lakh crore. So 5 lakh crore shares they have been selling, and they will continue to sell, right? So we also have insensitive politicians, right? So one day our finance minister in a parliament, she says, no, we don't depend upon FIAs. FIAs come and go, our local people will support. But how long your local people will support, right? Okay, local people will support. How long? At what price, right? So you like it or not, we are developing country. Our currency is not a strong currency. If our currency is a strong currency, why this is happening? Go and check the interest rates in Singapore. Interest rates in Singapore is lower than the interest rate in US. And why interest rates are so high? Because your currency is weak, right? So, something has to be worked out. I don't know what they are going to do it. So anyway, even if you tell, people are going to stamp us as anti-national. So better we don't give them the suggestions. So let them do whatever they want. But I can tell you, on war footing, they have to do something. If not, our stock market is going to be in trouble. So that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you for watching.